Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our 9 p.m. English News Edition. Here are the top stories. The head of state shares the 14th session of the Council of Ministers. Opening ceremony of the exercise named Bahari Salamah, bringing together 10 countries in Djibouti. And for the international news, in Gaza, end of the first negotiation on Gaza, Trump foresees an agreement soon. Ladies and gentlemen, the details now. Welcome to our newsroom, presided over by the President of the Republic and Head of the Government, His Excellency Al-Haj Ismail Omar Guelleh. The Council of Ministers held its 14th session of the year on the morning of Tuesday, October 7th. During the session, the Minister discussed various draft laws. The report with Dini Moussa.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Sous la présidence de Son Excellence, M. Ismail Omar Guelleh, Président de la République, chef du gouvernement, a eu lieu ce mardi 7 octobre 2025, la 14e séance du Conseil des ministres. Ont été examinés et approuvés les textes suivants.
Ministry of Budget. First question. Law on the final settlement of the state budget for the fiscal year 2024. The final accounts of the state for this fiscal year have been set at 145 billion Djiboutian francs in revenue and 167 billion Djiboutian francs in expenditure. General revenues amount to 145.1 billion Djiboutian francs, 19% of GDP, showing a slight decrease compared to the initial forecasts. They break down as follows. Tax revenue, 85.1 billion Djiboutian francs. Non-tax revenue, 42.5 billion. Grants, 7.6 billion. Income from financial and non-financial assets, 10 billion. Second question. Draft law on the amended state budget for the fiscal year 2025. This amending finance law for 2025 aims to revise the budgetary projections established in the initial finance law for the same year. The 2025 amended budget is set in balance both in revenues and expenditure at 170 billion Djiboutian francs, representing an increase of 12.1 billion compared to the initial budget adopted under the LFI for 2025. This positive evolution is mainly due to the recovery of port activities in the second half of 2025, stronger growth in the free zone sector, controlled inflation estimated at 1.4% in 2025 compared to 1.5% in 2024, thanks to lower prices of certain basic commodities. Ministry of Justice and Penitentiary Affairs in charge of human rights. Third question. Law on the creation of a Chamber of Notaries. This law aims to establish a Chamber of Notaries. This notarial profession is one of the few liberal professions without a body for oversight and regulation. By contrast, lawyers, bailiffs, and accountants have long benefited from such mechanisms. The Chamber of Notaries will have as its main mission to ensure the exclusive representation of the profession before public authorities and ensure users both nationally and internationally. This initiative also forms part of the implementation of recommendations made by international assessors regarding the governance of regulated professions. Fourth question. Draft decree on the organization and operating of the Djiboutian Office for the Recovery of Confiscated Assets. This decree defines the structure and functioning of the Djiboutian Office for the Recovery of Confiscated Assets in accordance with Article 4.2.12 of Law number 174/N/25/9th Legislature, amending Law number 169/N/24/9th Legislature on combating money laundering, terrorism financing, and the proliferation of weapons destruction. The ODRAC is tasked with identifying, locating, managing, and liquidating criminal assets seized or confiscated by judicial decision, preserving the value of assets pending at final court ruling. To ensure operational effectiveness, the aforementioned law established ODRAC as a public administrative establishment endowed with legal personality and financial autonomy.
Services échangés entre administrations.
And then the session also featured detailed presentations by several ministers who reported on the official mission they had recently carried out both inside and outside the country.
Ministère de la Ville, de l'Urbanisme et de l'Habitat. Sixième question.
Ministry Delegate in charge of Digital Economy and Innovation. Fifth question. Communication on digital public services. Through the Ministry Delegate in charge of the Digital Economy and Innovation, the Republic of Djibouti has launched an ambitious reform to transform the relationship between public administration and its users. As part of this strategy, the Digital Capital Services Catalog project reflects the government's determination to simplify, harmonize, and modernize public service management, making them more accessible, efficient, and transparent. The project's progress has identified 503 public services provided by the Djiboutian administration, divided into three categories: 281 services for citizens, 187 services for businesses, and 35 service exchange between administrative entities. Ministry of Housing Urban Planning. Sixth question. Law approving the financial accounts of the CIAF for the year 2025. The CIAF's financial statements for 2024 show revenues of 2 billion Djiboutian francs and expenditures of 2 billion and 600 Djiboutian francs, resulting in a net profit of 82 million Djiboutian francs. The net result marks a significant improvement, moving from a deficit of 64.7 million Djiboutian francs in 2023 to a surplus of 82.8 million Djiboutian francs in 2024, an environment of nearly 147.5 million Djiboutian francs. Ministry of Communications, Posts and Telecommunications. Seventh question. Law approving the financial accounts of Radio and Television of Djibouti, RTD, for fiscal year 2024. The financial accounts of RTD for 2024 show revenues of 1,757 million Djiboutian francs and expenditures of 1,665 million Djiboutian francs, resulting in a net profit of 136 million Djibouti francs. This represents a remarkable improvement of 180.2 million Djiboutian francs compared to 2023, which has a record deficit of 43.5 million Djiboutian francs. Revenues for 2024 reached 1.75 billion Djiboutian francs, an increase of 239.6 million Djiboutian francs, mainly due to the state subsidy amounting to 1.32 billion Djiboutian francs, up by 289 million from 2023, advertising and licensing income totaling 327.3 million Djiboutian francs. Ministry of Labor in charge of Formalization and Social Protection. Eighth question. Degrees on appointments. The following appointments have been made. Mr. Abdi Ilmi Ashkir, Technical Advisor to the President of the Republic, seconded to the General Secretary of the Government. Mr. Gurad Hassaleh Ali, Technical Advisor to the Prime Minister. Mr. Roni Saeed Haji Ismail and Mr. Mahmoud Bashir Barakat, Technical Advisors to the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training. Mr. Rastam Ahmad Ayi, Director General of the Djibouti Multi-Sector Regulatory Authority. Mr. Muhammad Abdi Gidi, General Director of Vocational Training at the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training. Mrs. Mahadon Nuh Umar, Director of the Project Management Office at the State Secretariat in charge of investments. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Government spokesperson presented a report on the official visit of His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, President of the Republic and Head of Government, to the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia from 7th to 9th of September 2025 at the invitation of Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed Ali. He also reported on the President's participation in the extraordinary Arab Islamic Summit held on Doha on September 15 and the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly held in New York from 22nd September to 29th 2025. The Ministry of Labor in charge of Formalization and Social Protection presented a report on his official visit to Doha, Qatar from September 6 to 11, 2025, aimed at strengthening bilateral cooperation in the fields of labor, employment, and professional mobility. The Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development and the Ministry of Infrastructure and Equipment jointly reported on the President's participation in the Second African Climate Summit held in Addis Ababa from September 8 to 10, 2025, under the auspices of the African Union and the Ethiopian government. Lastly, the Ministry of Communication, Posts and Telecommunications presented a report on his official visit to Doha, Qatar from September 21st to 23rd, 2025, which helped consolidate bilateral relations, strengthen cooperation in communication in audiovisual sectors, and explore new partnership opportunities, notably in digital infrastructure and information technology development.
And now the Ministry of the Interior, His Excellency Mr. Saeed Noor Hassan, led a high-level Djiboutian delegation to the 76th session of the Executive Committee of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, held in Geneva and running until October 10th. The current session addresses key issues such as the global displacement situation, the protection of asylum and the challenging circumstances, funding shortage, and the establishment of a strategic partnership to support refugees in host communities. The meeting reviewed a list of major conflicts and emergencies from the past decade, which have led to increasingly complex displacement crises, further exacerbated by climate change. During this session, participating states focused on adopting measures aimed at curbing displacement flows and strengthening border controls. In his address, the Djibouti Minister of the Interior, highlighted Djibouti's leading role in advancing the global impact on refugees. He emphasized that thanks to the strong partnership with the UN and development partners, Djibouti ensures equitable access for refugees to essential services such as education, healthcare, clean drinking water, and employment. The minister also expressed deep concern over the serious financial crisis currently facing the UNHCR, which has already resulted in the closure of offices and the elimination of 400 positions, with a direct and immediate impact on both refugees and host communities. He recalled that on October 3rd, 2025, the government of Djibouti, in collaboration with UNHCR, launched a call to action in solidarity, successfully mobilizing an additional $80 million in annual funding to preserve essential services and uphold Djibouti's inclusive refugee model. The minister urged the international community to turn its commitment into concrete actions to safeguard social peace and human dignity. He reaffirmed Djibouti's unwavering commitment to the reception, protection, and integration of refugees, stressing that this humanitarian approach reflects a deep-rooted national will maintained despite ongoing challenges. For over 4 decades, Djibouti has stood as a model of hospitality, hosting refugee population that exceeds 3% of its total population, despite limited resources and sustained pressure from annual migration flows estimated at 250,000 and 400,000 people. And for his part, UN High Commissioner for Refugees Filippo Grandi, in his opening remarks at the session, called for a renewed commitment to core humanitarian values, to the protection of civilians and civilian infrastructure, and the unimpeded delivery of aid to affected populations. He also stressed the need to address the consequences of violence, war, and forced displacement. Grandi reaffirmed UNHCR's readiness to support all countries in funding realistic and ethical solutions, noting that 3/4 of the world's refugees are hosted by low and middle-income countries. He called for faster and more efficient asylum procedures, to implement the implementation of international agreements allowing for refugee resettlement to third countries, and a genuine sharing of international responsibility. He also voiced concern over current refugee-related discourse in Europe and the ongoing deportation practices in the United States, acknowledging the real challenges, but warning that some responses are inconsistent with international law. And now I mentioned on the title, Djibouti hosts the launch of first Maritime Command Post exercise Bahari Salama under the Eastern Africa Standby Force. A formal opening ceremony for the first Maritime Command Post exercise organized by the Eastern Africa Standby Force, ESF, named Bahari Salama, meaning Safe Ocean in Swahili, was held this morning at the Dorali Coast Guard based in Djibouti. The event began with the national anthem, following by a review of the participating units led by General Zakaria Sheikh Ibrahim. The ceremony was attended by the commander of the Djibouti Coast Guard, Colonel Rais Omar Boghare, the commander of the Djibouti Navy, Colonel Ahmed Dahir, and several senior officials from the ESF. This exercise, hosted by the Republic of Djibouti, represents a key milestone for maritime security forces in the region. It calls on them to operate in a unified framework to strengthen regional maritime security cooperation.
tahay awoodii lagu harsanayay ma og tahay askariyo asaaskii nabadiyo abaabulihi guushi ambaqaadki noloshiyo ebadii dagaalkiyo indhihiina tagay ma og tahay askariyo
Today, the multinational exercise bringing together more than 100 participants from 10 countries is the outcome of decisions made during previous ESF political and strategic meetings. The stated goal of the exercise is to enhance collective security and the strategically important region facing complex and evolving threats by boosting the preparedness and interoperability of ESF member states. Designed as a comprehensive maritime peacekeeping operation, the exercise addresses a wide range of threats. Participants are training in anti-piracy operation, maritime counter-terrorism, combating smuggling and illegal fishing, humanitarian relief operation, disaster response. The multidimensional approach reflects the reality of modern maritime crisis and aims to test and strengthen regional coordination mechanism. One of the core ambitions of Safe Ocean is to enhance interoperability, joint operation capability, and rapid regional response. The exercise also focuses on training commanders, strengthening operational and logistical planning, ensuring compliance with international humanitarian law and the law of the sea during operations. Special attention is given to strategic communication and the role of media, both considered essential elements in the success of modern security missions. The 10-day exercise runs from October 7th to 17, 2025, following a realistic timeline. The exercise director emphasized the importance of this unprecedented regional maritime collaboration, stressing the need for unified efforts among ESF member states to effectively counter maritime threats and enhance coordination between their forces.
This exercise represents a significant step forward in our collective efforts to strengthen maritime security cooperation and enhance the operational readiness of the Eastern African Standby Force in the maritime domain. Bahari Salama 1 has been designed to provide an opportunity to our maritime forces, planners, and command teams to train together in responding to these evolving changes.
And now the director of the Eastern Africa Standby Force emphasized that this exercise marks a pivotal step in the path toward consolidating peace and stability in the region.
The aim of the Eastern African Maritime Command Post exercise is to enhance the capacity of ESF member states' maritime forces and the key stakeholders in the planning and conduct of an integrated mission, which with an objective to enhance regional maritime capability, with Eastern African being able to contribute to a stable maritime environment that supports blue economy efforts for socio-economic transformation of the region and beyond. The CPX intends to achieve the following specific objectives. One, enhance the role of ESF in support of maritime security on the Eastern African region, enhance multidimensional maritime operations in accordance with existing regional and continental frameworks. Thirdly, enhance collaboration, maritime information and intelligence sharing amongst member states, and lastly, but not least, promote further cooperation and sharing of best practices between the littoral and lake states in mitigating maritime threats in the Eastern African region.
And now the commander of the Djibouti Coast Guard, Colonel Wais Omar Bogore, expressed his pride in Djibouti hosting the first of its kind naval exercise for the command center.
The Republic of Djibouti, owing its geostrategic location, has constantly placed a high priority on maritime safety and security at the national, regional, and international levels. Given its proximity to the busiest shipping line around the world, which is the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the Gulf of Aden, and the Western Indian Ocean. The Bahari Salama exercise 1 carries a special significance. Its name, Bahari Salama, meaning safe sea in Swahili. In this regard, exercise Bahari Salama 1 serves as an essential mechanism for strengthening cooperation, collaboration, and the information sharing with the regional and international partners, all working toward our common objective of ensuring maritime safety and security. This exercise offers a unique platform for the exchange of the best practices and the building of relationships among maritime safety and security professionals. It fosters mutual understanding and enhances our collective capacity to address the complex challenges that define the maritime domain. The regional and international maritime environment is constantly evolving, bringing new and increasing complex challenges. Only through a concerted and sustained collective response can we effectively meet these challenges.
And now the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training concluded the National Days of Innovation and Action Research on October 5th and 6th, 2025 at the Isla Grand Hotel, coinciding with World Teachers' Day. This event was organized by the Ministry in partnership with the agency, University Agency of the Francophonie, bringing together a select group of experts, researchers and practitioners from both inside and outside the country within a rich program in presentation and discussion. The Secretary General of the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training, Mr. Mohamed Abdullah Mahyoob, presided over the closing ceremony of these activities dedicated to the National Days of Innovation and Action Research. Key themes included gender issues, the importance of languages and Francophonie in the education system, and education for sustainable development. The workshops contributed to strengthening a national community for educational research and innovation while also connecting it with international networks. The work was organized around three main axes: research and in educational sciences and language, pedagogical and didactic innovation, and practical training sessions. The event concluded with a summary presentation by Jean-Pierre, followed by a speech from the Ministry Secretary General, who praised the quality of the discussion and active participation of attendees. Thus, these days help to lay the foundation for a renewed and relevant education system capable of meeting contemporary challenges. And now the Secretary General of the MENFOP, Mr. Mohamed Abdullah Mahyoob, explained that these days aimed to establish a constructive dialogue among various stakeholders in the education sector, thereby promoting the dissemination and enhancement of the results of pilot projects implemented in several educational institutions. Among the main topics addressed during the meeting were professionalizing the teaching profession, integrating information and communication technologies, and artificial intelligence, also inclusive pedagogy. Now let's listen to a reaction of a participant.
Came here, we have academic program with DGGBET University, and I want to thank you for inviting us to attend a national conference of innovation and research implementation. And I think this conference held in a very, very important time, because this is time of innovation and creativity. So I think this conference it is important for the Minister of Education, and the policymakers will give the very benefit to make a roadmap to improve education as general in DGGBET. DGGBET as general. I want to thank the Ministry of Education, and I thank all the team for inviting us, and we are really very happy to attend this conference.
And now we go into Ali Sabih, where the third ordinary session of the General Assembly of the Ali Sabih Regional Council was held the day before yesterday in the conference hall at the institution's headquarters in Ali Sabih. This session was chaired by Mr. Shamarka Hassan Alale, President of the Regional Council, in the presence of all local elected officials. This session is part of the local democratic process and marks a genuine political beginning for the regional institution responsible for decentralization. The General Assembly convened in an atmosphere of optimism and strong determination, reflecting a clear political will to advance decentralization and improve the living conditions of Al Sabih residents through concrete initiatives. Each participant received a copy of the Regional Council's development plan, accompanied by a mandate letter aligned with the plan's objectives. During the ordinary General Assembly, discussions, questions, and interventions took place in a respectful environment, adhering to the spirit of democracy. And now in his opening speech, Mr. Shamarka Hassan Alale, President of the Regional Council of Al Sabih, delivered a brief but meaningful address emphasizing the importance of this General Assembly within the region's institutional calendar. He underscored the collective commitment of the elected officials to drive development and economic progress in Al Sabih. The Regional Council President highlighted several ongoing structural projects that reflect the region's dynamism and growing attractiveness. Among the key points discussed were upcoming private investments, notably those planned to be financed by Salam African Bank, which include the construction of 20 commercial shops in the area. He also announced a second partnership with BCE Bank aimed at financing the construction of an additional 20 commercial shops, strengthening the local economic infrastructure and creating new employment opportunities. We go into Uganda now. Uganda elected the ICAO Council for 2025-2028. The report. Uganda has been elected to the third part of the International Civil Aviation Organization Council for the 2025-28 term. The election took place during the 46th ICAO General Assembly in Montreal, Canada, which includes 192 member states. This election recognizes Uganda's significant progress in civil aviation development, particularly in aviation safety, airport infrastructure modernization, and regional connectivity. The Ugandan Ministry of Foreign Affairs hailed this as a major diplomatic and technical success, highlighting the country's ongoing commitment to effective cooperation with international institutions to promote safe, sustainable, and inclusive air transport in Africa. And now for the international news, as I mentioned on the title, in Gaza, first Gaza talks conclude. Trump expect deal very soon. The details.
Source reported on Tuesday that various negotiations between the mediator and the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas concluded in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, in positive atmosphere, while U.S. President Donald Trump affirmed that an agreement on Gaza was close. The source added that the meeting between the mediator and the Hamas delegation in Sharm el-Sheikh was constructive and defined the roadmap and mechanism for the current round of talks. They added that the Hamas delegation informed the mediator that the continued bombardment of Gaza was an obstacle to the release of prisoners.
And now in Egypt, Khalid El-Nani elected head of the UNESCO. The report is still with Hinda.
Khalid El-Nani, first Arab and second African elected to head UNESCO in historic election held worldwide. Dr. Khalid El-Nani, a former Egyptian Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, was selected the new Director General of the UNESCO. This election marks an exceptional moment for the Arab world and the African continent, confirming Africans' a growing role in international institutions. Dr. El-Nani received 55 out of 58 votes on UNESCO's executive board, a result that demonstrated the international community's strong confidence in his skill and experience in the field of culture, education, heritage, and sustainable development.
This is it for this 9 p.m. English News Edition. Thank you for watching us. Stay tuned for more on RTD.